that I found in higher education. Many of them are all connected, and you'll hear a lot of different types of issues. What I always say is, you're either accountable, your higher education system is accountable, or you have issues with access. Everything else wraps around those kind of things. And so when we think in terms of access, we think about what we were just talking about, the inputs. Who's coming into your system, and what are you doing to them, and then how are they getting out? And so some places use higher education or tertiary education as a method of moving classes of people, right? Moving socioeconomic classes. In the United States, we focus on African Americans, Hispanic Americans. If we think in terms of 1973, we focused on women. Title IX in the United States was an effort to move women into higher education. Dr. Franklin is a result of that movement. You can picture if we were not, if we did not have Title IX, there would not be a Dr. Franklin in all likelihood. It's kind of a frightening thought. It's kind of a frightening thought to take half the population of a particular area and isolate them. So access is always going to be with us. We've talked about that, whether it's affordable access, whether people can come to college because they can't afford it. They're geographically dislocated, so you'll see a lot of what we're talking about now with online programs and trying to get students connected. In Jordan, there are universities all over the country, likely to move those universities where there are population centers. That's geographic access. Technological access, teaching people how to use technology and understand technology. And then, of course, as I said, socioeconomic access. So affordability and access kind of go together. But accountability is a fairly new phenomenon. It's sociological, it is governmental. Now, in the United States, we don't have government authority over higher education. In Jordan, you do. In Saudi Arabia, you do. In Malaysia, you do. But in the United States, it is literally about the accreditation. That's who we're going to be accountable to. We're accountable to parents. When you come to college and you spend $50,000 US to get a degree, you better know something when you graduate. And so now we have 20% of our college graduates that are graduating that can't get a job because they don't have the outcomes. They don't know how to critically think. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to think globally. So that's a problem. And so what we're going to talk really about is the accountability piece of it. Trying to make sure that we use 100% of the students' time and energies to learn. So I kind of tried to look through the trends. This actually is global trends, and it's from a distance learning professional association. You'll notice number 7 is increasing focus on accountability, quality, and performance. In almost any list of trends and issues in higher education, you will see the same types of lists, but you will always see accountability, quality, and performance assessment on that list. That is the critical piece today in higher education, and it is not United States, it is worldwide. And if it hasn't come to Jordan, it will very soon. This public perception and communication of evidence about performance in relation to goals. This concept of to whom are you accountable? Why does higher education exist? What do you hope to get out of this? Clearly, you're building universities all over your country. In the United States, we have 3,300 institutions of higher education. So what problems does that create? What problems does that create when you have so many institutions? Anybody have any ideas?
What's the best teachers? You have so many choices.
Do you find the best teachers? What determines the best teachers? Who has the best teachers? Okay, so you have competition for best teachers. So you have to establish standards, right? You have to have something to measure against. You don't have anything to measure against. We had a conversation yesterday. I'm sorry? The creation of the experience. Again, that's a focus on influence, not a focus on output. So we can make the experience a certain way. Well, what are they getting out of that experience? And so the question here is, how do we measure? How do we measure performance? And what are the possibilities? What are the problems as we start to grow our institutions? One of those problems, a major problem, is called performance. I get a couple $1 million. I put myself up in an institution. I establish a quality outcome of graduation rates. I will graduate 50 to 60 to 70% of my students. I don't really care about my faculty. Anybody can go in there. When you start to look at this, now all of a sudden, now you have to differentiate what makes your university different than another university. What standards do you align to? What processes do you employ? How do you qualify the faculty that you have?
I believe every institution, actually the institution should do some kind of vocational development session for the classes for their faculty.
Absolutely.
It's because they develop every year. I go to the school to the coach hand on areas of weaknesses, and so I'm to solve my problem as well as coach some areas of things and so on.
Absolutely. You are here because it's a professional development, right? Your leadership at this institution cares so much for your professional development that you move forward as you understand these issues and trends. That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
We're going to talk about Jordan. In Jordan, we have 20 universities. I think 10 of them are government one, and the rest are private sector. So the government one takes, let's say, above 60%, I think it's over 65.
Right.
So the rest of the students, the input of the students for the rest of the university are between 60 and 65. So surely those students will be less than inequality or probably in the school. And
so you're saying that the public institutions take 60%, the top 60% of the students?
yes. Okay. And I think it's between 30 and 35,000 students per year.
Okay.
All the government in the formal university. So the rest of the students who get between 60 and 65, this is in Jordan, they go to the private universities and other colleges. So surely those students looking for the import that will graduate from these colleges, and they will not find probably better jobs in the future or higher education.
Sure.
Because those, by the way, if you want to get master's degree or PhD degree,
Right.
first of all, you have to be more than pass.
Right. The practical application of
So we
what
have-
you're talking about is, what I want you to do is I want you to flip that on its head. Because the practical application of what you're talking about is existing, right? You take 60 to 65% of your students, you run them through a system. They've already made that determination, right? At 18 years old or 17 years old, if they have not performed well, they're going to be moved towards the institution. They're going to take their money. The other 60 to 65% are going to go to the better colleges. Their future is already determined. My argument is this. What about the student that did not perform well at 17 and 18 years old, but is late? If you took that mentality right now, Dr. Franklin, who was in the top of her class, would likely be in the same place. Me, I would be only carrying her bags. I would not have a PhD. I don't think we'd have actually met, because I wouldn't have been able to go to college.
But it's the standard here. It's the standard leading or led by the higher authority.
Yes.
This standard applies to all the universities in Jordan.
Yes.
The university can't do anything for this thing. It should be changed by the president. It is a policy.
What I'm suggesting is not necessarily that I don't know how much influence you have on your policy change, but it would, zero. But it would seem to me that if you approach